It's yet another beautiful afternoon here in Nairobi, Kenya, and welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Talk Time Show. My name is Socrates. Now, there's something that has been happening in this country in regard to the youth. Very many parents are burying their own children because of depression and rising cases of unemployment within the spectrum of the young people. Just how is the government prepared to help create safer spaces within the youthful citizenry in our Republic of Kenya? Today I'm here at the Kenya School of Government to look for Mr. Peter Quest, the coordinator for the youth program at Kenya School of Government. I want to have a conversation with him on regard to this menace affecting the youth. What are the opportunities that government has for the young people, and how prepared is government in regard to this particular problem that young people are facing? Come with me, let's talk to Peter Quest and get to know where he's coming from, his story, and where he hopes to go. Welcome back to the show. This lovely afternoon we are here at Kenya School of Government. We have come to look for the legendary Mr. Peter Quest. Mr. Peter Quest is the coordinator for the youth program here at the Kenya School of Government, and we are going to hang out with him. He's going to respond to a few questions that you people asked, especially on the matrices that government uses to bring the youth on board. Once again, welcome to the program. Quest.
Yes.
Good to see you, man.
First of all, we need to define what a legend is. I am the legend in the making.
You're a legend, my brother. I saw somebody call you a public intellectual on Twitter.
Good for
Do
good
you
for them.
consider yourself one?
I consider servant of the people. I believe in serving rather than authorizing anything. Leadership is by service.
You're not sounding like a politician.
No, politics. Somebody once called me and said that, Peter, you are actually a leader, you're not a politician. There's a difference between leadership and politics.
All right.
A politician looks for the next election, a leader looks for the next generation.
I told you it's going to be fire here.
So when you talk about leadership and politics are two different things.
All right.
Sometimes, yes, politics informs policy, but leadership informs the next generation.
Wow.
Yes.
Now, I have 3 to 5 questions that are very dear to the community that we've built online. You've seen that recently parents are burying a lot of their children. The cases of depression are shooting, and the generally anxiety within young people is at its maximum. What is your honest opinion on the same?
It's unfortunate. It's something that is worrying. I mean, there's no way, there's no words that can actually be able to compensate that kind of discussion. There's no format or formula. There's no way to justify what is happening. It's just unfortunate. It's a bad news. It's a bad idea.
All right.
It's a retrogressive thing. It's wrong for parents to bury their children. I mean, the children are the future of a generation, and of course, they're the foundation of a country.
Yeah.
And the manifestation and investing on young people is essential so that the future sustainability of a country and the heritage and dignity of a nation squarely falls on the children. And that's why it's a loss to a country to lose any young person in any circumstances, be it depression, be it accident, be it thugs, be it terrorism.
Yeah.
It's a bad things. Perhaps a little bit about depression is something that, as a youth program coordinator, one of the areas that we specialize on and we push the agenda is to motivate, create hope among young persons. The country we are called Kenya is our motherland, and the leadership of this country, one thing that we do enjoy is that we have enjoyed a robust peace in this country. But then when it comes to young persons, I think there's a lot that any government of the day, especially this current government, of course a lot has been done. One, we praise our president for coming up with the 30% government procurement for young people, the AGPO, access to government opportunities. Yeah. I think that is big, but then the question is, how do we able to elevate and of course sensitize the young people to understand this? There's actually value preposition for them in government to sit on the same table and decide, be part and parcel of the decisions and the implementation of this. One thing that I must also say is that there is an aspect that youth should not be treated as a charitable population, but rather a very formidable population that need to be involved in any development, from the policy formulation to the implementation of those policies. I think it's necessary that young people be given a table of discussions and being enhanced, and of course the capacities be built. Kenya School of Government, of course, thrives on building capacities, and that's what we try our best level to build capacities of young people. Information continue to be the strongest pillar of success of any country. And that's why I think the young people are perishing for simple reasons that they do not know the information on how to build themselves, how to anchor themselves, how to engage the government of the day, engage the counties of the day, the officers that have been employed purely to protect the interests of the young people. I think it's important, young people, to really engage themselves, and those with information continuously share those information to those who do not have. And as a young person, the desire for you to seek information is critical. And I think perhaps the reason why we lose it all is that we think we are youth forever. I think there is an aspect that we need to know that today you are a young person, tomorrow the age passes and you need to be responsible. My aspiration and the desire, most of the training that we carry on for young leaders, and especially considering the Kenya School of Government develop what is called Young Leaders Development Program, is we encourage young people not to think small all the time, rather to think big and think innovative, because you'll be a youth today, tomorrow you are required to be responsible. I think the more time we waste to think about we are young people, and if you are a young person and you are not engaging yourself in a productive activity, then you know you are losing eventually, because the activeness in you is supposed to be productive rather than retrogressive, and it's supposed to be responsive rather than reactive, because most of the time we do not really engage ourselves in more productive things. The generation merging of what intergenerational dialogue or discussion around intergeneration is upon the young person to reach out to elder generation and of course senior generation and ask for guidance. It's necessary to ask for guidance. It's important to ask for guidance. No one has a monopoly of ideas. So how to manage depression? I will encourage young people, if you feel depressed, if you feel you're losing it, if you feel there's a lot of, perhaps you're developing a lot of pressure and a lot of things, walk into a government institution or any institution. Right now, devolution has made it necessary that the government is actually closer to the people. Walk to those officers and of course tell them, I am going through this kind of processes. I am a young person, this is my abilities, this is my capacity, I need to be assisted. It is necessary the government officers, the officers working for government, to really able to go to the level of young persons and of course encourage them to stand up. Of course, finally on the same thing, I want young people to think about being professional. Professionalize anything that you're doing. Be it art, be it music, be it sports, be it anything. Try as much as possible, professionalize. You want to venture into business. Try your best level to get the right information about business. For example, the president has lowered the registration for businesses. Currently, registering business could be as low as 12,000 or low as a business name with 3,000. Make sure that you are tax compliant. Get a tax compliance certification. Make sure that because you want to do business with the government, make sure that you have access to government procurement certification, AGPO certification, so that then you can actually get the tenders of government. The other thing I want also to encourage young people, please go to volunteerism. Volunteer yourself, learn so much skills as much as possible, so that the more you volunteer yourself, the more you learn so many information. Be in a group and say we are volunteering on so many sectors. You can volunteer on environment, you can volunteer in business, you can volunteer, so that you learn the best in the market, so that as you engage yourself, if somebody was to ask you about competencies and of course what is it called, experiences, you're in a position to tell them, I have volunteered in organization A, organization B. Finally, young people go to research. Please sit down and research on information that benefits you most. We do know we are in the era of social media, but do not invest a lot of time on social media. Get something that is productive. By the time the close of business of the day, you can actually say that I've done so much, so that then necessary also have a marking point for your life, so that you can actually say, I have done so much within this period of time. Thank you so much.
Wow. Guys, that's a rich spectrum of information that you really need to brood on and really take things that can help us move forward career-wise, and even things that can help us with our mental state, reduce our anxiety levels, and of course learn slowly and surely how the government of Kenya does its how young people can do business with the government of Kenya. Now, Mr. Quest,
Yes.
When you came to Kenya School of Government, I read somewhere that your first big project was done in Isiolo, where together with your people, you are able to set up a youth center. Can you tell us something brief about it?
All right. Necessary, it's important for youth to have a safer space. A safe space is a place, an organization or institutions where young people can learn and exchange ideas, able to have a platform where they can exhibit their talents, where they can engage with the policies, where they can actually summon, in quote, the policymakers to really reason, where they can have round table with the governor, round table with the national government. So we proposed, the discussion with Kenya School of Government was to set up a youth innovation center, a center that is a safe space for young people to really engage the county and of course be part and parcel of the development of the county, participate in policy and participate in development of it. We worked closely with the donor community. We worked with, we thank the UNDP for both financial and technical support for that. We also thank the national government for the goodwill. We thank the county government of Isiolo for generously and goodwill to set up, agree to work with Kenya School of Government and other stakeholders. So many of them came on board, the UK, the Norwegian Embassy, and the national government. We talked about the State Department of Youth. We talked about the National Youth Council, the Ministry of ICT, are very instrumental in that, the Ministry of Public Service and Youth and Gender Affairs, where the Kenya School of Government lies. The government was positive about it because I remember during the launch, we had a lot of support from the ministry, and they sent very senior government officers to really come and launch. We talk about COG, we remember the chairman by then, Honorable Paranya, was the chief guest, and he was able to really share a lot of wisdom. And of course, the county governor boss, Dr. Kuti, Mohamed Kuti, was also very passionate about it. So we had a robust multi-stakeholder engagement with both the donors and the government and the public. Because the youth eventually were the consumers of this, so they were not left aside. We actually came up with a robust training models where young people were trained on a number of areas, be it entrepreneurship to ICT, to governance, to public participation, so that they really understand, before we set these centers, what is their role and what is their input into this. So we set up a very, I can say, a very successful center in Isiolo County. The center serves close to 100 youth per day. If you look at in terms of program in there, we have brought in Huawei that is offering robust ICT-related trainings. We have Ajira trainings going on there. We have computer literacy programs that goes down there. We have a life skill programs that goes down there. We have a round table with the county that mostly from the women rep to the senator, from the governors of both sides, or even round table with the donors around that region. And of course, we believe through that we are achieving a lot of things. And then of course, even the coordination of the center, UNDP assisted us in hiring a UNV, a young person who really coordinates the whole of the processes around the center. So I can share and say that the center is a model that I think we feel that should go to other centers across the country. We have a lot of approaches from other counties. We are right now working with Tana River. Governor Godana has been very instrumental in persuading that we have another center. We already bought ICT materials, equipments that were offered. We actually did the handover 2 weeks ago at Kenya School of Government here. We believe Tana River will be the next big change.
Wow.
Because right now, as we speak, the governor is working around innovation of the center. He's talking about building a multi-purpose hall where a lot of young people will have a lot of engagement, because this then shortens the engagement. It basically takes the government to the grassroots.
All right.
So the youth can actually have an opportunity to really recall the county officers, the national government, to a dialogue and say, this is what we feel. And more concentration is the 30% AGPO is very necessary. And that is the discussion that the youth are professionalizing their businesses. With the youth we started with right now, I met some of them that said, hey, Quest, see to me Omoka. You know, that opportunity gave them a lot of things. Some of them already are into very successful businesses. You know, the things that they were thinking about. And now they're implementing them. I believe this process is a slow process, but I'm sure we'll eventually get there. Young people will be stakeholders in the national development rather than obvious, spectators. They will actually be partakers. And of course, partners with the government.
Wow, amazing. Now, having said that, and of course, as we go towards the end of this conversation, I want you to address something that over time the youth always consider so distasteful about government offices, and that is something called bureaucracy, whereby you want to go seek maybe an inquiry, or you want to visit as a state department and get to know a thing or two, but until you get to that particular office, the back and forth becomes too much. Is that the same with Kenya School of Government, or you have an open door policy?
First of all, the concept of government should be a open door policy. That is the first thing.
All right.
I do not think a young person requires an appointment to see or seek information that enables him or her get it right.
All right.
So any government officer that has a closed door policy, then I don't think they're serving. The first thing, government officers are public servants.
All right.
Their work is to serve. There's a clear policy at Kenya School of Government. When the Director General is around, anybody can come in and see the Director General without an appointment.
Wow.
I think that should be, and that is the practice across, unless there are complaints where a young person went to the office and they were asked for appointments and all sort of things. The service delivery means that an open policy, that means we are engaging. I do believe our president was very particular when he's setting up the cabinet or the ministries or the offices and the agencies and corporations to serve the interest of the public. Because a government officer is a servant of the people. And most of the time, when you come to Kenya School of Government, you can able to access. If you look at our charter, it's very clear how long you'll be served in a certain request that you make. Considering that we are a research institution and advisory to the government, and of course capacity building, it's necessary that you will get this information as soon as possible.
All right.
Yes.
Now, Mr. Quest, even as we move towards the end of this interview, I want to ask you a question that perhaps those who are watching us today are also wondering. Out of the 47 counties that equally deserve to have a well-established youth center, why did you choose Isiolo County?
One, every initiative or action has to begin from somewhere. And yes, Isiolo is strategic in a way that if you look at issues of radicalization, mostly it was emerging from Isiolo. If you look at a number of some of these cases that were being done, were emerging from Isiolo. Nevertheless, our partner UNDP were very particular about starting off with the CDC counties, that Frontiers County Development Council, as their frontier, because one, there's an aspect of marginalization that has been experienced from those counties, which actually happened to be true, because when we started our first program in Isiolo, you realize that there was a lot of skeptic discussions whereby young people are calling Nairobi, Kenya, and where they were not actually in Kenya. But those things have been demystified, and they are actually being told, and of course, a lot of information have shared. Now they feel part and parcel of the bigger country. So because of that little bit of marginalization, a little bit of information that were not flowing, and of course, a little bit of issues of securities, Isiolo emerged as one of the most strategic places to begin with. But that does not mean we are not focused in other counties. As we speak right now, we have a proposal to a number of counties that want also Kenya School of Government to facilitate them to really start youth innovation centers.
Right.
I've mentioned right now we are working closely with the Tana River. I remember the CC in charge of youth of Mandera sent his team to KSG. We've been to Turkana, we have checked on that. I have a proposal from Kisii County. We have a proposal and of course partnership working closely with Narok County. We have some NGOs working around our places. Basically, our desire is to make sure that we work closely with the government to make sure that we have youth safer spaces or youth innovation centers to all the 47 counties.
Okay.
Yes.
Wow, thank you so much for that particular insight. And one last question, and I think we've had this conversation before, is what would be your very honest, I don't want to call it advice to parents, but a thought. Would you share your thought with parents in terms of upbringing that would help young people to be a little bit themselves and shy away from things like depression? Do parents play a role?
One, that's a very good topic. I don't want to sound like an expert, and of course I don't want to sound like a professional in that line. But my honest opinion, or my honest growing up, I grew up not in an environment that perhaps I wasn't as much looked up in quote as an asset, but rather as a liability, because mostly I face a lot of backlash, and bashing from quarters. I admire to be loved, to seek for love and admiration, and to be acknowledged. And I felt a little bit not so much loved, if I can say that. And I think that's a certain level. So many young people go through these kind of things. I mean, a child is born, they're not treated as asset, but rather liabilities, and most of the time they're bashed, they're said words are thrown to them. Those things eventually rob the confidence of a young person. Right. Because my narrative right now and my opinion right now is children are supposed to be assets. Children are supposed to be loved. As soon as they start communicating, they're supposed to be involved in very loving environment, very conversation they need to have with their parents. They're supposed to start opening up and build a lot of trust among the parents and children. There has to be communication, an open communication between children and parents. There has to be that closeness. There has to be time dedicated to grow together, so that there has to be the aspect of hiring maids and house help and all these kind of things somehow as differentiated or created a gap between parents and children. Most of the time, some parents don't really know who their children are, and that's a big gap that you can ask me. So my opinion is that as much as possible, let's not create a gap between a parent and a child. All right. Let there be a simultaneous or continuous bonding and growth. Right. And for example, if parents are in any sort of businesses, they need to involve their children to be able to understand this is what we do. If you're working for any organization or government institutions, let the children also know that this is what you do, this is how the organization works, this is how government works. Right. So that they start building organizational mentality as young as possible, so that they start engaging positively and confidently that this is something that they also want to, foresee. The other thing is that parents need to build role modelism. The first role model of a child need to be the parents, not somebody they study in books or watch on TV, but then the parents need to demonstrate role modelism so that the children can start emulating some of the aspects, because children imitate by learning. So if we portray better actions and better results and better behaviors, the children start getting it right. Yeah. The other thing is that let's start exposing children to good behaviors. Let's involve them to worship. If they are Christian, let's teach them about values, about worship. Let's put the foundation of God among children. If they're Muslims, let's take them through madrasas so that they really understand what it takes to be a full person. Their responsibility also, engage the children to really be involved in responsibilities. Don't hire people responsibilities where the children can partake. I think it's important that the children are raised as assets rather than as liabilities, so that they end up becoming very, very important, of course, members of society. And this will engage them not to, when they become at the youthful ages, they start being responsible rather than chaotic and careless. So I think there's a lot of parenting issues that need to go to growing of children. And for instance, the children's that informal, children's homes and orphanages, I think it's upon the community or the caretakers of those organizations to really find out how much they can invite other members of society to really bond with these children, so that the children becomes assets rather than liabilities to the country.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you so much. I think the conversation on creating safer spaces for the youth in this country cannot be exhaustively talked about in one sitting.
Yes.
And I'm hopeful that this is only part one.
Yes.
And your office can always welcome us for these conversations. Peter Quest is the youth program coordinator at Kenya School of Government. You can reach him out directly and surprisingly by coming to his office. He has a very nice open door policy.
Yes.
And again, you can reach him through his social media pages that he can tell us.
Facebook is Peter Quest. Twitter is Peter Quest 7 because I want to be the 7th president. Anything else is Peter Quest.
I told you guys this guy is a politician in the making.
I'm not. I'm a leader, I told you that.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Guys, that has been one very interesting conversation with Mr. Peter Quest.
Thank you.
And the issue about depression and the youth is one that I'm really hoping that the government of Kenya that you work for will continue to take seriously. We appreciate the mechanisms that they've already put in place.
All right.
And we are hopeful that we are going to curb this menace as soon as possible. My name is Socrates. This is the Talk Time Show. Do subscribe so that you don't miss these candid conversations. Do have a good afternoon. Bye-bye.